Anybody would like to make comments on citizens, if you please sign up on the citizens comment board so we have a record of it, please. We'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. Right. Yeah, yeah, we understand. Yeah. Anybody signed up or not? Anybody signed up? Okay. Gary, do you want to do the workshop? Did you say? Okay. Donnie, you're not going to do the workshop? Okay, Gary, you know the rules here. You know the. I'm going to read the anyway, but you know the rules. Members of the public can address the council, and we ask you to limit it to 3 minutes, knowing that we cannot respond unless there's something on the agenda that we can respond to. So the usual. So as long as you're aware of that, I guess you're the only one that's going to make comments. So come on. Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, I can pick on you too, Carrie, believe me. Just
I
wait.
could give you a hard time for walking so far.
Well, that's true, you did, yeah. Uh, Actually, this is going to be relatively short, and I want to speak on staggered terms. And, you know, I would like to request the council to approve and to implement staggered terms immediately. Most, if not all, of the council members stated they are in favor of staggered terms. This council should be well aware of the problems presented with a sweep election with complete council turnover. And if so, then why would you want to potentially push that problem forward to the 2025 election and possibly have the same issue reoccur? You could rectify that problem tonight by approving staggered terms. You know, the council seems concerned, one of the council's concerns for the immediate implementation seemed to be if the 3 council members that would be required to run for re-election in 2024 would be re-elected. Well, if even one of those council members were re-elected, the council would still have a majority of council members remaining on the council. You don't lose the majority. All you need is one of those 3. And I guess if you think that not even one council member could be re-elected, what does that say about your evaluation of the council's performance? I mean, if the council is doing what the citizens want, why would they not be re-elected? So I'm going to have to disagree with some of the council's comments that now is not the right time to approve it. I think now is the right time to approve staggered terms. That's all I got. Thank you. Thank you, Gary.
The agenda, are we allowed to discuss it now? A workshop, I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention to that, okay. Okay, Donna Hartman, 112 Great West Loop. And I'm coming at this staggered terms from a different type of perspective. No one supports staggered terms more than I do. When the council, we always had staggered terms from the very beginning when we had offices for years. It was changed by city council. I was not on it at the time. Citizens' comments were at the end. And during citizens' comments, I asked the council if they would please reconsider their vote and not implement everybody going on all at one time because there could be a sweep of the council. Of course, the council did not change what they said at that time. And then the door closed for us to open up staggered terms until just recently. Where I'm coming from and listening to the meeting last month, we think of, okay, we're going to have an election in May. Oh no, I mean, Camille Ryan, our staff has to hit the ground now if we're doing this. We are putting a burden on our staff to do staggered terms. Camille has just been our city secretary for 2 months. I don't even know if she's been to an election class, or she's you know, she can do anything, but the thing is, she's just brand new. She's like, what, 2 months into this, and we're gonna throw a huge election on her, you know, in May. The thing is, these packets are ready. You know, Dennis, we sign up in February. Y'all know that. You sign up months in advance. This is a process you'd have to start immediately. Our interim city manager said he would do whatever you asked, but it would be a burden on the staff. So I asked, in considering this, although I'm 100% for staggered terms, this isn't the time. It's too much of a burden for our staff to do this right now. And I don't think that council's worried about reelection or things like that. But think if they don't run again, or we do have a sweep of the council, aren't we starting all over again with 2 people that have had a year experience, and 3, we start from the very bottom? This council has worked hours tirelessly through budgets and things like that. Would start all over again. To me, it isn't the time. We are in a transition. We don't have a city manager. Around that time when they would be voting, the city manager might have a couple months' experience. Let's think about what's going on in the city, not just the staggered terms per se. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Dennis, you want to recognize? Oh, I'm sorry.
My name is Marilyn Hardy, and I live at 29 Morgan's Point Boulevard. I disagree. I think we should get those staggered terms out there. If your council is doing what we want, you don't have to worry. We'll vote you back in. If you're not doing a good job, yeah, you might have to worry, and some of you might have to worry. But I don't think, this is what the citizens wanted. They didn't say, oh, we want staggered terms, but let's wait another couple of years before we start it. We voted on it for now, not 3 or 4 years. Well, we voted it, they agreed for the staggered terms. Well, when we went to the voting place, wasn't it, how did it ever come in then? Oh, it's put in the charter then. Well, I think it should have been, because I think 99.9% of the people would. No. Well, I don't know if it wasn't an option. How could it be out here if it wasn't some kind of an option? Okay, and said that we could have. Okay, so then it was, but as far as I've known, and as long as I've known, I've heard that we were going to do it. And 99% of the people I have talked to are really in favor of it, and they're not happy about it not taking place. And I do agree, it was a sweep, and it's going to be hard if we only get rid of 2. They may come back. And that's what I don't understand, why you're so worried about it. If you're really doing your job, you shouldn't be. So, I mean, I hate to see it go for another so many years and then we do it, because I agree with that one. We'll be right back where we started. So that's all I have to say, but I will say that most of the people I've talked to are really disappointed about it. They really want to see it go through, so.
Thank you very much, appreciate that. Liam?
Did they sign up?
Lynn Milam, 28 Morgan's Point Boulevard. I agree 110% with what Gary Green said and what Marilyn tried to say. Everybody that I have talked to also believes in staggered terms now. They don't want to wait another 2 years, because just like what was said in one of the council meetings, what if it's a whole new council and then they don't want staggered? So then we're still waiting. We can't vote ahead of time for something you want the next council to put in. That's not right. And with the current council, I do know that I've heard of 2 of them being talked about for lack of, and now I'm drawing a whole blank. what's my word? No, lack of confidence, that's my word. And for two of them, and people talk about other towns, people talk about people's health reasons and problems, people talk about all kinds of stuff that they shouldn't be talking about up here. And some of that stuff's bordered on illegal. So I think it needs to happen now. And if, same as Gary, if you feel like you're doing great jobs, then you will be voted right back in. And I do not believe, I mean, if it happens to happen, it has to happen. And if Camille needs help, I'm sure all of us volunteers can help you.
Okay, now.
Well, I am very much in favor of staggered terms. Actually, I was disappointed when I moved here that there were no staggered terms. But I personally feel now is not the time because there's too much. We don't have a city manager. We don't have an audit done. I mean, another person apparently just resigned. There's too much going on. I think it's not the time. It's just another year. And well, if you guys all get voted back in, we would hope you would consider it. And if you're not voted in, well, then hopefully the other people consider it. I feel if 99% of the citizens are for staggered terms, and hopefully the people that run next time are for staggered terms, and they will, after you have a little bit of time to get this, whatever's happening here, create a little bit of stability and a little bit coming the community together, that's probably better time to consider staggered terms. I would assume you consider it after the election if you're reelected, and whoever of the other 99% of the people that run, they will consider it, of course, because they want the staggered terms. So it's kind of like a no-brainer to me. That's all.
Different subject. I went outside my house this morning and the trash truck had already gone by, and 4 trash cans on my side of Tanyard Road had not been emptied. And on my way here, I drove around Oakmont, and there were 3 trash cans you could see still had trash in them. And as I came down Morgan's Point Boulevard, or whatever that main road is, our trash cans still sitting out. I think they should have 2 trucks come out here and not be in such a hurry to get by everybody. So I saw the guy sitting behind the City Hall building, and I got out and I asked him, can you go back to Oakmont and Tanyard Road because there are trash cans that get empty? He says, I'm not sure if I'll have time. So maybe if they had 2 trucks, they wouldn't have to be in such a hurry. And that's all. Oh, if there's a change, like in the route they go, they should put that on the email we get so we know ahead of time.
Okay, that it, folks? Okay, council, now is your time to have a discussion. I know that normally we use this time to visit with Ryan. So if you have questions on anything on the agenda, I'm not going in any particular sequence. So if y'all want to start on something, you're always limited by time because of the meeting at 6. So I'll let you start with whatever you want, if you want.
Well, this is our first variance to discuss. Stephen's not going to get here till about 6:30. So I'm wondering if the rest of the agenda looks pretty meaty that I don't know if he wants to be involved or not, but I would think he might want to be involved. Okay, and so I'm thinking that if we could just go through the 2 P&Z variances. I realize Becky's not here, but I know you sat in on the meeting. Does it make? It's not on the agenda.
For the workshop.
Oh, okay.
It says public hearings, but I mean,
Okay.
Okay, so does that make sense to everybody, or do you guys want to do something else?
What?
they're the very first thing listed, discuss public hearings.
Public hearings. Oh, I thought that was our people talking. Okay, I'm sorry.
Is that something, does that sound?
What do you want? I mean, I'm sorry, what are you requesting? I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, I'm happy to give a quick brief over the P and Z meeting, the conversation that was had on the public hearings. We did have members from the public for both of the public hearings that were held and that you'll see tonight. And we also have public hearings tonight for both of those variance requests. After discussion and the public hearing, the P and Z did recommend approval, or approved and sent forward both of the variance requests. One of them was really streamlined. Requested Archer for for a variance to go into the easement. Of course, you know, their house apparently was built right on the property line a while back. You know, their current porch almost goes into, goes into the easement already. There were just some caveats that we don't want anything blocked. But they were in support of that. The other was actually something that was brought to council last 2 years ago. My understanding,
It was last year.
it had been tabled, and then as we went into the process, I realized it had been denied. The basis for the denial, my understanding was something to do with our ordinances and their definition of
Contiguous.
contiguous. That is no longer in our ordinances. So we had a very healthy discussion, I believe, at the P and Z, where everybody discussed possible options. The ultimate, like I said, the ultimate recommendation or approval was to approve that variance request. And if the council found reason not to work with Neil and myself to make sure that we could make this variance request something that could be approved, you know, in lack of a better term. We ask for variances because things don't align with the ordinance. So when you bring the ordinance up to combat the variance, it's kind of a moot point because the variance is because it doesn't fall within the ordinance in the first place. So that's where that conversation is.
So when I read it, if I understand right, the 4 Archer is basically the setback is 25 feet and they'll be 20 feet back then. But many of the setbacks in the city are 20 feet. We're not consistent with our setbacks throughout the city. So we had talked earlier about it might be a good thing to actually look at our setback lines and what they should be. So that seems like a reasonable request. And then from what I understand on the Beachcomber, is the people own the property across the street, not, and according to the contiguous definition they gave us, that would still be considered contiguous.
So-
It's just separated by a street.
Green easement, not a street.
Right, a green
It's a
easement.
green easement that separates them, not a street.
Okay,
They own the property on both sides of the green easement.
okay. So then
And
that
after you-
that would be, according to definition, still contiguous.
Well, we would have to defer, and I'd probably have to reach out to Neil. I don't want to put him on the spot right now.
Okay.
But like I was saying, that contiguous provision is no longer where it was when it was originally.
Right.
Yeah, I drove both of the properties, and as it turned out, it was a Saturday, and both homeowners were home, and they were very gracious in talking to me. Yeah, the one on Archer, believe it or not, they have a 30-foot setback. It's a 15 easement, and then it's a 15 building line, and they have about a 3x5 cement porch, and that's even in the easement. My concern with that one was that we're giving an 8-foot variance onto the easement. But then when you look at it, it is inside of the water lines, and I confirm with you, Ryan, that no utility will be affected, not our water, not TXU, Encore, whoever. And so it just seems to make sense. This lot is an extremely unusual lot, and I would hope that giving an 8-foot variance into easements will be, this is a total exception based on this lot and this situation. And then on the other one, on Beachcomber, that guy was so gracious. He said, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. I had talked to him about replatting so that maybe it would all be one lot. He said, I'd gladly do it. I talked to him about one thing that bothered me a little bit is he's creating a driveway on County Road. So that's ingress, egress that we're adding to County Road, but it's his right to do whatever he wants with his property. But so the other thought was, would you be willing to tear the building? And both of these lots are buildable. It's 0.9 acres, so we could actually have 2 residences on those lots. So I hate to give up property tax. for a storage unit. But again, it's his right to do whatever he wants with his property. And he said he would be willing, if he ever sold the property, to take the building down. I mean, he was very reasonable. And so then I was talking to Urian yesterday, and Urian pointed me to Section 18 in our Code of Ordinances, which wasn't in our packet, but basically talks about accessory buildings on properties. And it basically says that lots that just have accessory buildings on them, they may be sold separately, but all accessory buildings have to be removed from the lots before the sale. So that did it for me. I mean, as long as we're not setting up storage units, on empty buildable lots. I hate to give up a buildable lot, but, like I said, it's his property. So I think, and I could be wrong, but I mean, that kind of told me that we are not going to get into the business of allowing accessory buildings just arbitrarily set up on lots. And if it does happen, then they have to be taken down. We're not going to be in the storage unit business. So they will have to be taken down before a sale, and we might get a residence built there. I don't know if that helps or hurts.
Or did Ryan answer your question, Stephen? I didn't quite get your point. You were wanting to do something with Stephen not being here.
Oh, what to cover during the workshop?
Did I answer your question on it?
Yeah, she was just making sure that, we held the stuff that Steve was
Oh, okay.
interested in until the actual meeting,
I got you.
which is good. I also wanted to mention this time that I can bring it back to life. I did want to mention that, in the instance that the variants were not approved, there is another option, and it's something that we would have to run by Neil. But like I said, planning and zoning was very specific and direct in saying that if council were not to approve it, they would like them to explore legal options to do so. My other thought process was if a variance can't be approved or isn't approved, and you should have a couple documents in your printed out materials that are ordinance related.
The specific use permit?
We have the variance ordinance as well as the specific use permit. The variance ordinance is what should be considered when a variance is going to be granted. And then if the variance isn't approved, my other thought process was the potential of the applicant applying for a specific use permit. Now, like I said, I would have to work with Neil to get his feedback. Like I said, I'm not going to put him on the spot on any of this tonight. There's a lot that goes on.
But we'd have to start the whole process all over again. We would have to go to P&Z, public hearings. So is there anything to stop us from approving this variance with tight constraints of getting rid of the?
There's nothing that I'm aware of that prevents you, as the council, from approving a variance from the ordinance.
A couple things, yeah. So the first property with the expanded deck, like you were saying, the 30 feet. The other thing that occurred to me as I was reading through it is, and you mentioned it, is it already has, the patio pushed out. So, extending that or adding the deck, in essence, we're looking at a 4 to 4.5 foot extension. So that's the first thing that popped in there. The deck itself is, but
Itself is 8 foot.
extending out, it's only going to add another 4.5 feet
It's
for
gonna be
what's there.
32 feet wide.
Wide, yeah. But moving forward to, shut up, telephone, moving forward
Right, it's-
to the street,
right,
and
right here.
that's, yeah. And their diagram really helped that. And I do have a question on one of the things that I think, Donna, you may have mentioned it because all the notes from previous council is listed in there. There was discussion about combining the plats, and then on the diagram with the pretty little half moons, the two plats that are encompassed, are those the two that it was recommended to combine, or was it the plat with the residents kind of catty corner to where the outbuilding is going to go? Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
It makes sense to me, but I really don't know it. To me, I was thinking it was those two that were actually.
Side by side.
To replat them, and out loud, I'll say, that doesn't make a lick of sense.
Right, right.
Okay.
It'd still be in violation because there's not a residence on there. Right.
Right, right. I just wasn't sure if anything had been done to combine those plats or if that was just kind of a dead issue, that it was a recommendation that died. So, okay, yeah, that was just for my own knowledge.
I asked about combining plats before, and it sounded like it was a pretty expensive process, so I don't know.
This will be open for discussion again in regular meeting too, before we
Right.
vote on it. So, is there anything else on the agenda you want to?
I'd like to do the RFQ on roads, if Urian would mind addressing that.
I'm happy to provide, okay, they may not be able to hear me. I'm happy to provide an update on that. Of course, Alfonso was going to be here tonight. He's unable to make it, unfortunately. We got one response on our RFQ that we sent out. In speaking with our city engineer, in his capacity, he did not recommend us award the proposal to MRB or start negotiations. He felt they lacked in kind of understanding what we were needing, which is more of a
Technical.
geotechnical firm or company. So there are a couple options that I've included in your packet. One is the city ultimately can go out and find one of these firms and just sign a service agreement with them. Or the other option is, since we already have a contract with Cobb Finley, we can task them to do a task order and for them to move forward with getting an engineer in here or geotechnical firm to do the work under Cobb Finley as basically a subcontractor. So that we're not down the road, starting the process all over. Those are really the two options to move it forward for.
Similar, we did that same process in the ground storage tank, that then they hired someone under their MSA and just kind of did a sub agreement with them. So
Is that how we got the RAS proposal?
I can't speak to that. I wasn't here for the RFP.
Yeah, I know, but
yeah, so I mean, really, the RAS proposal was Dalton reaching out, knowing that roads is always a hot button item. So for him, he had reached out to another city manager who had used them. So RAS and then the other firm that kind of did more of the chip seal and the other technology, the Kent Novus guy, they agreed to come and present the current council and the candidates at the time, just, hey, this is something that we can do. And so it was just another city manager, he was the city manager of Hearn at the time, that just used RAS. So it was a recommendation through them.
But Cobb Finley said we can't get proposals from engineering firms.
But we can't do an RFP for an engineer. That's
Right.
prohibited by state law. What they can do is they can enter into an agreement with a subcontractor to do the work.
Okay, it seems incongruent with what happened with RAS, that's all.
We didn't have an RFP or anything with RAS, so we just had,
Just got a bid randomly?
right, knowing that it was something that the roads have been talked about.
That's basically my understanding, kind of how that first option is, that we can reach out to a geotechnical firm that we'd like, have them come present if the council wants to negotiate. We can enter into negotiations with them.
But it has to be one, it can't be two.
If we can find two, I guess we could go down that and try to track some down. Of course, we pay a city engineer, and I would think that they would be the best qualified to do that type of work, to understand what exactly is needed for that study.
Well, I would just like the most expeditious way to get a road study going legally. So whatever that is,
I think using Cobb Finley
okay.
and having them move forward, that would provide us the opportunity to actually move. We would take action tonight to direct staff to coordinate with Cobb Finley, and then at the January meeting, they would have their contract or whatever up here for approval.
Specifically for the purpose of going out to bid for road studies from,
For the road study, it would be,
okay,
You're not getting multi-bids, you're gonna get a one bid, basically.
but Cobb Finley's gonna screen them,
Right.
okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
okay, I won't talk anymore, sorry. Now, so that, my thought is we let our city engineer do city engineering things and move us forward with the process.
Thank you. So I have just a quick question too about the repeal of the ordinance 8.02. Is that something, I mean, if the state law has changed, we don't really have any choice, do we? We don't, we just have to do it, okay.
And it probably should have been done a while ago, and it may have been done before I even got here, but it may not be reflected. Chief, are you aware, did we repeal the ordinance for turkeys? To your
No, we did not even bring it to the council. So it basically expired. It was why it was taken, because of the new law. And then basically because a new one wasn't in place, basically the old one was expired.
But just to finalize it and cross all the Ts and dot all the Is, we should probably formally repeal it. That's fine.
In my, if it expired, then,
Yes, it has a specific expiration date.
So then do we have to repeal it?
if it's, no, if it's,
So it needs to be deleted from our ordinances out there? Okay,
and we can do that.
okay.
Moving to any other questions or?
I'm gonna make somebody raise their hand, and I don't see. You want to adjourn and visit with the citizens, and we'll re-adjourn or reconvene?
Jimbo said my name and the name suggested I address a couple things with you on that variance thing, just for clarification. Okay, one of the things is that we got a little bit of a
Do you want to use them? So people-
Yeah, please. Please. I'm going to be the Mike Nazi.
And I'd rather not do this in the main meeting, but one of the problems we have, our subdivision, I don't know why I always get feedback, the subdivision ordinance that's present right now, codified July 25th, 2003, says contiguous means adjacent properties whose property lines are shared and are not separated by street, alley, easement, screen, or right-of-ways. And I do realize in another section with our Franklin, we say it can be. So this is something we don't want to say, because we've got two different definitions of what we're looking at, okay? So the variance, I'm all for the variance. The Bonies have done everything right that they were supposed to do. The other thing is accessory building and the definitions, these are right out of the codes. A structure located on the same building site as the main building, the use of which is incidental to that of the main building. I think what Ryan's talking about, special use permit, would help you out with that. But that's what they say. This is what we based our decision on when we based it. The other thing is building site, one or more adjacent lots not separated by public easement upon which one dwelling and a maximum of 4 accessory buildings. So these are all in our current ordinances. So I'm just saying that when you address this issue, if you want to address it by possibly looking at a special use permit or a special variance, because there's a lot of houses that face back on Morgan's Point Road, so he's not sticking his big building, which is the intent of these ordinances, that a big accessory building isn't put next door to a single-family dwelling. The only other thing I want to clear up with you is, in your letter, it said that I made the motion, it only listed me by name, and that 2 council members were in favor, and the mayor was in favor, and reading straight from the notes. We did table it once. This was hours and hours and hours of time and research coming up with this decision because we wanted to support the Bonies, and I'm happy that I feel that y'all want to do that too. City council meeting request was denied by D. Hartman. Meanwhile, the mayor and 2 council members were in favor. That's what was said. The actual minutes reflect that Mayor Green entertained a motion. Mayor Pro Tem Donna Hartman made the motion to deny. Councilmember Sean Knuckles made the second motion. All present voted aye. That's misinformation that you got on that. But mainly, I'm not here to, I think like I said, I've been over backwards trying to find a way to help the Bonies because so many people just put stuff up in the city. The last 2 years, stuff has been approved. They're not a precedent anymore. We have many precedents now, especially the last 2 years. Not our code enforcement. I want to make that very clear to you. Jay really tried to support all the codes we had. We had an inspector at the time, he's no longer with us, that made some really bad decisions, and administration sometimes signed off on those. So anyway, just want to make sure that y'all have the clear facts, clearly what's in our subdivision ordinances, clearly what's still in our definitions, so to make sure that's not what you're stating you're approving this for.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me, and just to clarify, you know, all the references to the ordinances and it not being in compliance is exactly why they need the variance. So,
Right. Okay. I just didn't want you to say about the contiguous and all that, because our subdivision clearly states it's a no-no, okay? So anyway, so y'all have the facts, but of course the council's right, and like I said, I would have done anything to have the Bonies have this land. They did everything perfectly, and we spent days and hours on it, so.
and I will say, I'd like to let everybody in here know that, this was brought back all the way through, and we did try in a manner of transparency to provide everything so that we could make a very good decision when we brought this back to the council, which is, you know, why we provided everything, all of the history, so that everybody can be on the same page. Because there are people that were part of this last time and have additional insight into this, why it wasn't approved. But I think everybody understands and they can see that, you know, we're not trying to skirt anything by. The Bonies aren't trying to skirt anything by, you know. They mentioned in front of the public that if they had to build a house, they would build a house. That just to me seems, and I don't have good words for what that seems like.
No, they were wonderful with it,
So-
the whole process.
So, you know, that's the conversation we had at P and Z. And
So when we give variances like this, and it sounds like it's absolutely the right thing to do, what wording do we put in the variance so this just doesn't become everybody's building auxiliary storage units on adjacent
We
properties?
don't change the ordinance wording, we just give them a variance to that ordinance, so it's not changing.
No, I don't want to change the ordinance. How do we state the variance with real specific guidelines? As we're giving this variance because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And do you, Carrie or Camille or anybody, know if we have like some type of form letter? Or Neil, have you seen in the past, like a variance approval that cities typically could use? It may be something we have to look into further on our end once, if and when the variance is approved. You know, like I said, we just want to do everything above board.
And I just don't want to end up P and Z, you know, everybody coming to P and Z
Right.
for a variance on their storage unit. So I just want to try to make this unique as possible. Yeah.
But I mean, probably this situation is unique in itself, where the green easement is behind someone. So, I mean, it's not gonna be, there's gonna be an influx of people with the same situation.
As long as we put that terminology in the reason why we gave the variance, I guess, is where I'm coming from. Right. I guess that's where I'm coming
And
from.
I think Neil was going to respond to something.
Okay, perfect. This is the first time I've done this, so I just want to make sure it doesn't set, you know, precedent. Well, you did it here, so you got to do it there. Okay.
I mean, anybody can come for a variance, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's automatically approved. Just because they've done one, there's always some reason, and that's that for that variance. That's the reason it comes to council.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, those words.
Anything else, folks? Appreciate that, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna adjourn this right here. We will reconvene at 6 o'clock. So get a chance to visit, use facilities and visit.